Part 12. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 111. Chapter 111 Don't refuse in a hurry. Sister Mena also saw him, and her face immediately turned cold. Chu Chen smiled gently, as expected of the Queen of Tianyi. This is a wonderful inference. Xia Yu is indeed going to be unlucky. If you offend someone you shouldn't offend, don't expect to be intact. He paused, and then said, Good afternoon, Mena. Yes, Ling, nice to see you here. Sister Mena said coldly, the agent of Chu University is here for a special visit. Why are you doing this? This is Tianyi's recording studio, which is far away from the emperor to the south and north, and is definitely not in the way. Since Chu Chen appeared here, there was no way he could have come over for a walk after he was full. Chu Chen still smiled, Don't you invite me in to sit down. Sister Mena, what qualifications do you have to enter our Tianyi hall? I have something to come to see you about. To be precise, I'm looking for Yexing Ling. Chu Chen was not annoyed and said slowly, If you don't invite me to come in and sit down, do you want to talk here if you like? He said, looking around. The streets nearby were bustling with people, but the streamlined steps in front of the recording studio building were open and empty. The three of them were standing here. They were all handsome men and beauties, full of aura and well-dressed. Coupled with Xiaoling's celebrity face, pedestrians coming and going were constantly casting curious and prying eyes. Sister Mena frowned slightly, snorted coldly, turned around and walked into the recording studio. Xiaoling followed silently. Chu Chen chuckled lightly and followed suit without haste. Recording studio building, reception room. The room was covered with soft carpets, and thick dark green curtains blocked out all sounds from the outside world. There was a set of leather sofas placed against the wall. Sister Mena walked over and sat down elegantly, and asked Chu Chen politely, Tell me, what's the matter? Chu Chen sat down opposite Sister Mena, put the crocodile skin briefcase on the side of his hand, and said softly, Mena, you are very smart and very capable. In this incident, I underestimated the enemy, so I admit defeat. Sister Mena sneered, Nonsense. Xiaoling also thought it was nonsense and turned her attention to the room temperature. The air conditioner was turned on too low and it was a bit cold. She stood up from Sister Mena, rang the bell to ask the staff to bring in a shawl, and ordered tea, roselle tea, Chu Chen's most disgusting taste. Then she sat back down again. Chu Chen was chattering, Xia Yu has publicly apologized in major media, and our emperor is willing to admit defeat. The staff brought tea. Chu Chen said thank you smoothly, took it, and took a sip. As a result, his expression froze, it was too sour and unpleasant to drink. Xiaoling laughed secretly as if her treacherous plan had succeeded. She also picked up her own tea and took a leisurely sip. This tea is good, isn't Mr. Chu used to it? Do you want me to ask someone to change it to puer or Longjing? Chu Chen put down the teacup, I'm not used to drinking it, Miss Lai. The smell of hibiscus tea filled his mouth and taste buds. Chu Chen felt extremely uncomfortable and wanted to drink something else to dilute it. Xiaoling, however, tilted her head and smiled, Mr. Chu is really interesting, what can I do for you? I didn't say I would help you, she just asked casually, and she was happy when she knew that he really couldn't get used to drinking. Chu Chen, Sister Mena didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She gave Xiaoling a small warning look, signaling her not to go too far. So Xiaoling restrained herself a little, stopped teasing Chu Chen, and became bored again. She lowered her head and gently swayed the teacup, silently counting the petals of the roselle flower. Chu Chen straightened his expression, I came here this time specifically to express my apology to Miss Ye on behalf of our boss. Xiaoling's heart skipped a beat and she stopped counting the flowers and leaves and raised her head to look at him. Sister Mena's eyes became sharp, your boss? Pei Zion. Yes, Chu Chen said, Staring closely at Xiaoling, the boss has found out clearly that Miss Ye has indeed not insulted Xiaoling. This matter is a misunderstanding. Ha, misunderstanding, Xiaoling sneered. Pei Xian kidnapped her without asking any questions and even poisoned her to mute her. If Li Lei hadn't rescued her in time, God knows what other crazy things he would have done. She had been frightened so much and suffered so much, but in the end, she only got a casual misunderstanding from that man. Chuchen looked at her expression and said slowly, "I'm sorry." Sister Maina asked, "Then has your boss found out who Xiaoling was wronged?" Xiaoyu. Chuchen nodded, "It's her. The boss will punish her." Punishment? How to punish her? Sister Maina's voice became sharp. Do you also want to silence her voice? Chuchen said, "She is no longer a member of the Pei family." What? Sister Maina didn't react for a moment. Xiaoling over there has sat up straight. You mean? Miss Xiaoling and Xiaoyu are both orphans adopted by the boss many years ago, Chuchen said. They have gone through formal procedures and been registered in the Pei family's household registration. Therefore, after Miss Xiaoling's death, they can be buried in the Pei family's ancestral grave. Now, because Xiaoyu did something she shouldn't have done, her boss has removed her from the Pei family and terminated the adoption relationship. Xiaoling was shocked. What about her property? She remembered that after her death, according to the family relationship, the inheritance should be inherited by Pei Xian and Xiaoyu. That was a huge sum of money, a figure large enough to make some of the Pei family's branches and even high-ranking people jealous. If Xiaoyu left the Pei family, would they let her take away that property? Over the years, Xiaoyu has been sick more often than she has made money. She knows very well that the sister has little savings. Chuchen misunderstood her meaning, and there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. The boss just terminated the adoption relationship with her, and the money he should give her was not a penny. In fact, Miss Xiaoling passed away more than a year ago. Later, except for some commonly used objects and real estate, all the rest of the property was inherited by Xiaoyu. This time, she also took this property out of the Pei family. Xiaoling felt relieved. With this money, Xiaoyu could live well. After thinking about it, I have already made trouble and the same water and fire. If Xiaoyu was standing in front of her at this moment, what she wanted to do most would definitely be to slap Xiaoyu twice, no doubt. Chuchen said, "The boss will not treat those who follow him badly, especially women, and he is always generous with money. Miss Ye, in fact, this time I come to you, in addition to apologizing to you on behalf of the boss, I also have a small gift, and the boss asked me to hand it over." Looking at the playful smile in his eyes, Xiaoling suddenly understood. Honestly, he thought she was a greedy woman because she asked about property. Xiaoling's face turned cold. "No matter what gift it is, I don't need it. Please take it back." "Don't refuse in a hurry," Chuchen said. "Maybe you should take a look first before making a decision." He took out a large envelope from the crocodile skin briefcase he carried and pushed it on the table. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 112. Chapter 112. Give you a villa. The envelope was made of thick craft paper and looked ordinary, but Xiaoling knew that the value of the things inside was definitely not low. But she still said, "Take it back." Chuchen remained motionless. "Open it and take a look. It won't take you much time." Xiaoling didn't want to pay attention to him at all, but Sister Maina reached out to take the envelope and pulled out a thick stack of documents from it. "Ha, gift agreement, notary all certificate, real estate certificate." Sister Mai Na looked up at Chuchen. "Your emperor is really generous." Chuchen smiled. "The best villa area on the outskirts of the city, with a priceless location. Miss Ye, many little stars like you can't earn a living in their lifetime, so I advise you to accept it." Xiaoling frowned and asked directly, Without looking at the property certificate in Sister Mai Na's hand, Qingshan Water Pavilion. It seems you know where it is. Chu Chen smiled meaningfully. This little girl seemed to be very noble on the surface, but in fact she knew the rich area well. No, when it came to the best villa area in the suburbs, she guessed it was Qingshan Waterside Pavilion. Qingshan Waterside Pavilion was definitely an invisible wealthy area that did not show off the mountains and water. Only the real aristocratic families understood the value there, and even the newly rising, the new rich and the nouveau riche often mistakenly believe that the best areas in the city are elsewhere. There is only one possibility for a little star with no identity or background to know about an area like Qingshan Water Pavilion. She must have spent a lot of time researching it in order to join a wealthy family. Chu Chen has seen too many girls like this. Anyone who can be bribed with money is not difficult to deal with. Chu Chen smiled even more cheerfully. Take it, you will be one of them from now on. He fully expected that the girl in front of him would be flattered and burst into tears with gratitude. Unexpectedly, Xiaoling frowned even more tightly. She took the thick stack of documents from Sister Mai Na's hand and took a look. Yes, it was Qingshan Water Pavilion. Number 666. Xiaoling knows where it is. In his last life, Pei Xian bought 2 properties in Qingshan Shuixi, one was number 666, and the other was number 1314. Number 1314, for life. That was a birthday gift he gave her 3 years ago. According to her preference, it was made into a white fairy tale castle style. It happened that she was obsessed with the dark version of Grimm's fairy tales at that time. After going to see it, she made a lot of requests for renovation of the castle. Pei Xian manipulated her and had people renovate it. This renovation lasted for a long time until they fell out and she was imprisoned by him. Not completed. Later, what happened to the villa? She does not know. As for the other building, number 666, which is currently in the hands of Sister Maina, Xiaoling also knows something about it. This villa should belong to Xiaoyu. That year, Pei Xian gave Xiaoling a villa as a gift. Xiaoyu was unhappy and said that he lived too far away from his sister, so he bought another one for Xiaoyu. Why, now Pei Xian gave this villa away? Xiaoling's heart was full of questions, which hindered her identity in this life, but it was difficult to ask them out. Chu Chen smiled confidently. Miss Ye, you are a smart person and should know how to choose. Following Boss Pei, there will be many gifts like this in the future. As for your boss Li from Tianyi, I know that his family has a big business. But he may not be so generous to you. Xiaoling was startled. She realized what he meant and was very angry. Who did she think she was? Sister Maina was also angry. Xiaoling is not the kind of person you think. Let Pei Xian give up this idea as soon as possible. Chu Chen slowly put down his hand and said unhurriedly, Maina, Yexing Ling is still a child. It doesn't matter if she is not sensible. Why don't you understand? In this circle, there are more people who sell themselves than those who don't. Who is cleaner than who else? Let's not talk about anything else, just Lu Yun and Zhou Fifei who you once took care of, who didn't rely on their body to make a career. Sister Maina had a livid face and said nothing. Xiaoling thought of those 2 actresses, both of whom were extremely popular. It turned out that there was such a hidden secret in them. Chu Chen continued, Yexing Ling is already much luckier than them. She has met a top backer before going through dinner parties and changing owners several times. Maina, ask yourself, there are so many financial backers in the circle. How many people are as rich and powerful as our boss Pei, generous and willing to flatter others? As he said that, he turned to Xiaoling again, little girl, don't be too stubborn. You can't eat your backbone. Seize the opportunity while you are young and clean, otherwise. He smiled and looked into her eyes. Such beautiful eyes won't fetch a good price if they get stained by the dust. Xiaoling was so angry that she grabbed the gift agreement on the table, crumpled it into a ball and threw it at his face. Chuchen blocked it with his hand, and the large pile of documents slid down the material of his fine suit and fell to the ground. He bent down to pick it up, slowly unfolded it with his hands, spread it out, and spread it on the table. Don't take it out on this villa. This is the boss's apology to you. It has nothing to do with anything else. Just keep it with peace of mind. However, if you change your mind one day and want to be the boss, you are welcome to come to me at any time. He stood up and bowed slightly towards Xiaoling and Sister Meina. Then, I'll take my leave first. Get out of here. Xiaoling was still very angry, so she grabbed the document again and threw it at his back. The door to the reception room was closed, and the document hit the wooden door and slid down. Xiaoling stared at them, unable to think about it, and rushed over to grab them, reaching out to tear them apart. Don't, Sister Meina quickly stopped her. What are you doing? Xiaoling was still angry. Just keep it if it's for you, Sister Meina said. I've already told you, I'm just apologizing, nothing else. Don't take it for free. She stepped forward and took the crumpled document from Xiaoling's hand. He grabbed it, smoothed it, stuffed it back into the brown paper envelope, and then handed it back to Xiaoling. Take it, don't be impulsive. Xiaoling looked at her in confusion. You want me to keep it? Money, this is money. Sister Meina couldn't laugh or cry. He dares to give it, why don't we dare to accept it? Xiaoling was still unhappy and gritted her teeth. I don't want it. When did you become so courageous? Sister Meina gave her a slap in the face. You don't have much money, but this is a huge sum of money. She looked at Xiaoling's angry face and sighed slightly. Xiaoling, I know you feel uncomfortable. But no matter how despicable Chu Chen is, one thing is right, many artists can't earn such a villa in their lifetime. With this, you have the confidence, no need to worry about your livelihood and really do what you want to do, you know. Xiaoling sighed slowly. Of course she understood. Money is a good thing, who doesn't want it? But she just didn't want Pei Xian's money and didn't want to have anything to do with that man. Sister Meina said, this thin piece of paper can change your life. Xiaoling, don't make decisions based on impulse. You should calm down and think clearly. If you still don't want to accept it after a few days, then it's not too late to deal with it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 113. What is the difference between Chapter 113 and Pei Xian? Xiaoling was silent for a long time, and finally nodded. It's not that she has figured it out, but she doesn't want to listen to Sister Meina's advice anymore. She knew that Sister Meina had good intentions, and would only come up with such an idea if she truly thought about her. However, she could only accept this kindness. The past with Pei Xian was too tragic and complicated to be humane. She could not tell Sister Meina why she insisted on refusing. After some time, Sister Meina will forget about this matter, and it will not be too late for her to deal with it. Sister Meina thought she accepted it and smiled. That's good. Xiaoling took the real estate document back to her residence with a tangled mood. She lay on the sofa and read it over and over in a daze. It was number 666, it was a villa that originally belonged to Xiaoyu, but now, Pei Xian took it out and gave it away at will. What about number 1314? What will be the fate? Will Pei Xian also give it away? She was lost in thought for a while when she heard the doorbell ring. Mao, who was sleeping on the carpet, opened his eyes, looked at her, then looked at the direction of the door, and shook his tail slightly. So Xiaoling knew who the visitor was. Only when Big Boss Li came to visit, The pet leopard was willing to give a reaction. Mao, open the door, she said lazily. This leopard has a human nature and was almost raised like a dog by Lilei. He is proficient in all skills such as holding a frisbee and opening doors, but he has barely learned the foreign language woof, woof, woof. After listening to her words, Uncle Mao moved his furry ears, stood up gracefully, walked to the door with solemn steps, stood up on his two hind legs, pressed the switch with his front paws, and the door opened quietly. Yo, Mao, it was indeed Lilei. Seeing that it was him who opened the door, he was not surprised at all. He smiled, bent down and scratched his chin, and said hello affectionately. Mao rubbed his master's trouser legs with his huge head, then walked to the side of the carpet and lay down on the carpet. Lilei walked to the sofa and looked down at Xiaoling, who was lying sprawled out. You are too lazy, get up, let's go, come and have dinner with me. He felt that he was really the best landlord in the world. Food. Whenever they were both at home, he would take her to eat together. Xiaoling didn't want to move, so she slowly turned over and sat upright. With her movements, the large pile of real estate certificates, gift agreements, and other documents fell to the ground and spread out. Lilei knelt down to help her pick it up, glanced at the content on it, and paused. Qingshan Waterside Pavilion? Pei Ziyan gave you a villa over there. Xiaoling took the document back from his hand and said nothing. Her relationship with Lilei has become closer recently, but it is limited. They can eat and laugh together, but they cannot involve no matter how deep the issue is. What happened to Pei Ziyan was the most secret and painful wound in her heart. The slightest touch would cause unbearable pain. She would rather the secret rot in the darkness forever than be dug up and dripping with blood. Lilei looked up at her and his expression became serious. Why did Pei Ziyan give you something? It's nothing. She stuffed the stack of documents into a large brown paper envelope and put it away from him. The last time I cursed, he misunderstood me and sent me something to apologize. Her understatement made his eyes darken. It's just an apology. Can you give me such a valuable villa? Xiaoling I frowned. Boss, this is my private matter. She didn't like the way he looked now, as if he was interrogating a prisoner. After all, this was none of Lilei's business, so why should she explain to him? Go back, Lilei said. Xiaoling's face turned cold. I told you, this is my private matter. I said go back. He became tough. On the carpet, Mao, who was sleeping, raised his head slightly and glanced at them with some caution. No, she said, she didn't like others to interfere with her, not to mention that Lilei's interference was really out of bounds. She looked at him with a somewhat distant and indifferent expression, without giving in. Lilei was a little irritated. Xiaoling, do you like the villa over there? I'll just give you a set. Pei Ziyan is not a good person. You can't accept his things. Go back now, right now. I know in my heart whether he is a good person or not, Xiaoling said. Also, I don't want you to give him a villa. You don't accept mine, but you accept his. Lilei's face tightened. Xiaoling looked at him with a hint of timidity, but she quickly calmed down. These are two different things. Lilei, she was so unhappy that she didn't call him boss, but directly called his name. Lilei, besides, who are you to me? If you want to give me a villa, do you think you're giving me a hairpin or a bag of snacks? How dare she accept a huge amount of property for no reason? Lilei asked in a low voice. Then who is he to you? Xiaoling pursed her lips and stopped talking. Who is Pei Ziyan to her? Ha, that's too complicated to explain clearly in just a few words. Their entanglement lasted for 2 lifetimes, deep into their bones and blood. She struggled to escape and seal him away, but that man was everywhere. Even at this moment, it was mentioned by Lilei. Seeing her silence, Lilei's heart slowly sank. He is not a fool. From a long time ago, he discovered that she has always had a person in her heart. That time when she was hiding from the rain in the mountains, She had a high fever and murmured, calling for Brother Pei. The surname Pei is rare, and the only one who intersects with her life circle is Pei Zion. Later, he noticed that every time the name Pei Zion was mentioned, she would always show an unusual expression. Although he hid it well, he still saw it. "Who is Pei Zion to you?" he asked. Xiaoling I raised her head stubbornly. "It has nothing to do with you." Very good. Li Lei was so angry that he laughed, grabbed the villa gift agreement from the table, and tore it into pieces in a few strokes. Papers flew up one after another and landed between the two of them. "You," Xiaoling was shocked and angry. She didn't expect him to be like this. "I will give you another set," Li Lei said, "but you can't have this set. I won't even take it from you." Xiaoling was also furious and smiled coldly. "Li Lei, stop being so self-righteous. Is it enough to have a few bad dollars? You can stop taking my personal belongings as your own. You can do whatever you want with the items. Why do you think I will definitely take what you gave me? Even if you give me 100 sets or 1,000 sets, you can't get this set back from me." It's true that she didn't want the villa that Pei Zion gave her, but that didn't mean that she could tolerate him doing whatever he wanted. Even if she doesn't want it anymore, this villa is now hers, so what qualifications does he have to tear it up? What is the difference between him and Pei Zion? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 114. Chapter 114. Be My Girlfriend. The 1-year imprisonment made Xiaoling deeply understand one thing: in the face of power, all concern is fake. The powerful can trample on the will of others at will. No matter how beautiful the reasons are, it cannot change the facts. Just like Li Lei, he could tear up the real estate certificate that belonged to her without worrying about any punishment. He controlled her life at will, stipulating what she could and could not receive, and he thought he was the savior. Ha, how ridiculous! How chilling it is! Xiaoling slowly raised her hand and pointed at the door. "Please go out." "You're driving me away." Li Lei raised his eyebrows, displeased. "This is my house. I rented it to you." She looked at him quietly for a moment, then suddenly smiled to herself. "Yeah, I even forgot that you rented it to me, so you can always come whenever you want, and leave if you don't want to. Okay, let me go." She turned around and walked towards the door. Li Lei grabbed her hand. "Where are you going?" "Let go," she said, "you have no control over where I go." "Yeah, going to live in the villa he gave me." "Li Lei, that's enough." She turned around suddenly and looked directly into his eyes. "What qualifications do you have to question me, policeman? Even if I die outside and be cut into pieces, it's not the same as you half a penny relationship," she said, trying hard to break away from him, and started to leave again. Li Lei pulled her into his arms, lowered his head and kissed her hard before she could react. "You," she was frightened, and before she could say a word, his lips were blocked by him, making her unable to make any sound. She pushed him hard with her hands, but he grabbed her wrist and couldn't use any strength. I don't know how long it took, until she felt lack of oxygen and was about to suffocate, and then his lips slowly left her. "Be my girlfriend," he said hoarsely. She was completely stunned. "You ask me what qualifications do I have to care about you?" He put his arm around her waist, very firmly, preventing her from struggling. "Then be my girlfriend. I will give you a villa, many gifts, and there is protection for you." Just the thought of her leaving him made Li Lei almost crazy with fear. Just now, when she looked at him with that indifferent look, he felt that she was so far away from him, so far away, as if just letting go of her hand, she would walk away without looking back, never to be seen again. Return. The villa sent by Pei Zion made Li Lei feel an unprecedented sense of crisis. His Xiaoling has been coveted for a long time, and with a strong enemy on his side, he can't let it go. He must confirm his relationship with Xiaoling as soon as possible and declare his ownership. What did you say? She thought she heard wrongly. Be my girlfriend. He looked at her seriously. Xiaoling frowned. I'm not that kind of person. As early as the first time they met, he tried to use money to buy her to stay with him, but she refused. Now that the old thing is brought up again, she is still not interested. Lilei, I mean, girlfriend. Not those messy women, the kind who will become wives in the future and have with each other. Xiaoling felt that he was not awake, or that he was confused by some stimulation. Wife, she was in disbelief. Are you okay? How can I become the daughter-in-law of your Li family? In her previous life, Pei Xian's marriage made her realize one thing clearly, that is, a person like her with no identity or background can become a queen. Becoming a top star is not qualified to marry into a noble family like theirs. Although Li Lei usually didn't mention much about his family background, Xiaoling knew that the Li family was prestigious and could be equal to the Pei family. Even when Pei Xian, the patriarch, mentioned the Li family, he was a little wary in his words. Li Lei said, "How is it impossible? You are the person I recognize." She wanted to say that she was of low status, but then she thought, no, she hasn't agreed to be his girlfriend yet. Why would she consider marrying into the Li family? Not even a single horoscope. So, she changed her tone, "We are not suitable." "Why is it inappropriate?" Li Lei was a little anxious. "Aren't you happy to be with me? I know your living habits, what you like to eat, what you like to play, and I can afford to support you and give you the best. Everything, Xiaoling, promise me." Xiaoling just shook her head. He is fine, she knows. However, the wounds in her previous life were too serious. Even though she had tried her best to stay away and not think about them, the dark wound had only barely healed on the surface, and was still and inside. She no longer believes in love, and she doesn't want to find another person to vow to. Her love with Pei Xian has exhausted all her strength and destroyed all her illusions and sense of security. Now she is exhausted and just wants to be alone and live out the rest of her life safely and smoothly. "Sorry," she said softly. The hope in Li Lei's eyes was extinguished little by little. "Why?" he asked. "Because of Pei Xian." How he wished she would shake her head, or even give a slight negative hint. But she didn't. The expression on her delicate face dimmed slightly, and she just said, "Don't waste your time on me." That feeling of panic came over again, and Li Lei grasped her hand unconsciously with force, as if he was grasping the last treasure in his life. Xiaoling was in pain, but she still looked at him calmly. "I'm sorry. I will not give up," Li Lei said. "I won't change my mind either. The fact that you did not go to Pei Xian but stayed with me proves that I still have a chance, doesn't it?" Xiaoling shook her head. "Stop asking, boss, don't force me to leave." She stayed here so that she could have a place without intrusion to start her life over again. If even this place was full of love, hatred, and grudges, she would have no choice but to go find a new place to live. "That's it for now, there's nothing more to say." Li Lei slowly let her go, deciding to use a delaying tactic. As long as she was here, there would still be a chance, whether it would be a long-lasting love, or whether it was close to the water. One day, he would catch her. He looked at her with a lazy smile on his face. "Don't be so nervous, Xiaoling, you don't have to make a decision now. This proposal to be my girlfriend is valid for life. When you figure it out, you can tell me at any time." After saying that, he turned around and said, "Let's go. Come and have dinner with me now." It's like a landlord's invitation to his tenants. Xiaoling wanted to refuse, but he had already said it for this reason, and she really couldn't think of any reason to refuse. So, she sighed and followed him out obediently, going to his room next door for dinner. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 115. Chapter 115, 70th Birthday. Eating a meal is so satisfying that you don't know how to taste it. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. After the meal, Xiaoling hurriedly said goodbye. After returning to her room, she felt a little more comfortable. She looked at the fragments of real estate certificates on the floor under the sofa, but she felt dazed again. What kind of messed up life is this? Pei Ziyan chased him more and more closely, and so did Li Lei. When did her life become a mess? The phone rings. Xiaoling reached out to pick it up. Hello. Xiaoling, a middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Xiaoling was startled, and it took her a few seconds to remember who the other person was. Father Ye, the father of this body in her life. After no contact for a long time, Xiaoling asked, "What's the matter with you?" Yes, father's voice was a little awkward. Ever since the last time Xiaoling came home, he and Yes mother deceived her into Ye Xingfei's ward and asked her to face Pei Ziyan. They have never been in contact again. Father Ye felt guilty, feeling that he was nothing and sorry for his daughter, but what could be done? At that time, Pei Ziyan threatened and induced them. He was afraid of Pei Ziyan and could not withstand his wife's persuasion. His wife said that the money boss Pei was willing to pay was enough for their family of 3 to live without worries about food and clothing. Yes, a family of 3. Yes father, yes mother, Ye Xingfei. They did not include Ye Xingling. To this family, she was like an outsider. Father Ye adjusted his tone and said to Xiaoling as kindly as possible, "Xiaoling, don't bear any grudge against us for what happened last time. Dad and your Aunt Lu both have their own reasons." Difficulties? Xiaoling sneered, she was just selling her daughter out of selfishness. But she was too lazy to expose him. She was a person with no emotions to begin with. No matter whether he betrayed her or deceived her, it would not stir up the slightest disturbance in her heart. "Dad, let's get down to business, I'm very busy," she said. She didn't believe that Father Ye called specifically to apologize. If he really wanted to apologize, he wouldn't have delayed it until now. Father Ye smiled awkwardly, "Xiaoling, your grandma is celebrating her 70th birthday. Several of your aunts, uncles, and cousins will go to celebrate her birthday, and our family will also go. Look, please tidy up. Come back to the countryside with us in a few days." When he said this, Xiaoling remembered. According to the memory of the original owner of the body, it was indeed time for Grandma Ye's 70th birthday. This old grandma is very good to Ye Xingling. When she was a child, Ye Xingling's father ignored her after marrying her stepmother Aunt Lu. Only Grandma Ye loved her, providing her with extra clothes in the cold winter and escaping the heat in the hot summer. Grandma Ye takes care of everything. The original owner of the body was very close to Grandma Ye. Xiaoling thought that since she had taken over someone else's body, she had to fulfill her filial duty, so she agreed, "I will go." Yes, father was very happy, but then he hesitated. "Is there anything else?" Xiaoling was a little impatient. Ma Liu's harsh voice came from outside the phone, "You're a worthless thing. I just asked you to open your mouth to your daughter. You can't even open your mouth. Are you mute or something? Let me tell you, I am the birthday gift money of that old woman. It won't happen. If you have the nerve, go empty-handed, or else ask your daughter for it." Xiaoling frowned as she heard this. What's the fuss about? Father Ye took a deep breath and finally made up his mind. "Xiaoling, you are a big star now, well, that's it. You also know the situation at home, and it is not well off. Look, your grandma's birthday gift, can you prepare it?" Xiaoling sneered. This was what her stepmother, Aunt Lu, had planned. With his greed for money to a certain level, he can even plan birthday gifts for the elderly. However, even if they didn't tell them, Xiaoling would have prepared them. In her memory, Grandma Ye's legs and feet were not good and she would feel sore from the cold in winter. She thought about buying a better pair of warm clothes for the old man. Clothes are a mixed bag on the market, and the ingredients listed may not be trustworthy. Fortunately, she had worn some good clothes in her previous life, and she could identify them by feel, and she also knew several good clothing stores. "I'll prepare it," she said coldly. "What are you going to buy?" Father Ye asked. "There is no way, my wife has a death order." Not only does she want Xiaoling to prepare a birthday gift, but she also said, "Don't use the cheap one, but the best one. Don't let others look down upon you." Xiaoling thought about it and guessed his intention. She sneered slightly and asked, "What are you going to let me buy?" "This." Father Ye hesitated for a moment, then said, "Your fourth uncle's family is in business. He said that this time he will give your grandma a mahogany bed. We have a big star like you in our family, and relatives all say, no matter what, it can't be worse than your fourth uncle's house." "Do all the relatives say?" She thinks it was Aunt Lu, the stepmother, who said it. Xiaoling was non-committal. "I have a sense of discretion." "Hang up the phone. It's sad to think about it. How many months has she been in the industry? Some time ago, she was so blackmailed that she didn't even get a single phone call from her family to express condolences. Now that she needed money, she rushed over and opened her mouth. Superstar." She smiled. "Have you ever seen a big star who is as poor as she is?" Yes, father seemed to have forgotten that in order to treat Ye Zhengfei's illness, she borrowed a large debt from Wenchunyi, amounting to several million, and it has not been paid off yet. Nowadays, in order to save face among their relatives, they always say the value is no less than a mahogany bed. "Why don't you go and grab it?" Xiaoling muttered in a low voice and kicked the pile of torn property certificates of Qingshan waterside villa beside her feet. Unexpectedly, she recalled Li Lei's tyranny when he tore it up. It's great to be rich. A villa worth tens of millions can be torn up at will. When will she be so rich and willful? Be my girlfriend. In his mind, Li Lei's handsome face appeared again, speaking seductive and depraved words in a deep magnetic voice. Xiaoling scratched her hair in annoyance and silently went to find a broom to clean up the debris on the ground. The next day, she counted her savings and asked Sister Meina and Wei Shaiyin to borrow some money to buy clothes. To be precise, I was going to help Grandma Ye customize a set of pure camel hair lining and trousers. She knows a good custom shop, but it is membership only and does not accept outsiders. In her last life, she did have a membership card, but in this life she is far from the level to apply for a card. Xiaoling was very troubled. Sister Meina said carelessly, "Look for the boss. The boss is omnipotent." Xiaoling shook her head and rejected his love. It was too embarrassing to go to him at this time. Besides, she doesn't want to be too dependent on someone. Dependence is really a terrible habit. "Then there's nothing I can do," Sister Meina said nonchalantly. "SSD, this clothing store's membership card is notoriously difficult to get. How about you find another place?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 116. Chapter 116. Don't force me to throw you away. It is not easy to change places. In her previous life, she had been exposed to the best ready-made clothing stores, all of which were membership-based. Xiaoling had a headache. After thinking about it, she called her assistant Wei Wei. "I remember there is a textile market in the south of the city. Go and see if there is pure camel hair material and bring me some samples. If the store refuses to give it, you can just buy a small piece less. There are so many fakes on the market that it's hard to tell them apart. She has to touch them with her own hands to know." Wei Wei knew that she was a star and it was not convenient for her to show herself in such a market, so she readily agreed. The next day, I brought back a few pieces of material, Sister Xiaoling, there are very few sellers of pure camel hair. I searched the entire market and only found these few. I brought some samples back from each store. Take a look. Xiaoling looked at each piece and touched it, but it didn't feel right. Grandma Ye is getting older. If she wants to give away fabrics, she must give them pure natural and genuine fabrics. Who knows what is added to these camel hairs? Xiaoling frowned and said to Wai Wei, forget it, you can help me look at pure cashmere and bring back some samples. Although the warmth of pure cashmere is worse than that of pure camel hair, it is much easier to find, and Wai Wei soon brought back a lot of it. Xiaoling chose a piece and told Wai Wei, just buy this one. This is the most expensive one. Wai Wei said, Sister Xiaoling, will you be cheated? Xiaoling shook her head and asked her to go directly. After waiting for a day, Wai Wei didn't come back, so she was about to call to urge her, but an uninvited guest, Li Lei, came. When Li Lei came, he held a large paper box in his hand. Here you go. What is this? Xiaoling asked. Grandma, aren't you planning to celebrate your birthday? I heard that you were looking for pure camel hair clothes, so I ordered a set from SSD. Take it, don't be too impressed, Li Lei said with a smile. Xiaoling. How did this man know that she wanted to customize SSD's clothes but couldn't get them? Also, what's going on with Grandma? How come he calls it so smoothly? Sister Maina also told me, Li Lei accidentally revealed the name of the leaker, that you are booking a train ticket. Although it is a first-class seat, you are a star after all, so it is still inconvenient to take the train. I'll send a company car to take you there. Xiaoling looked at the things in her hands and then at him. Why are you so nice to me? Li Lei still smiled. I'm chasing you. Xiaoling didn't even have the strength to persuade him to give up this time, so she said directly, thank you for helping to order the clothes, I will give you the money. Li Lei was not very happy, but she also knew that this was the biggest concession she could make, so she had no choice but to say, it's up to you. After thinking about it, he added, is there anything else you need? Do you want me to help you buy it? Xiaoling politely declined his offer. The car Li Lei sent her was a white BMW, which did not lose its status but was not too high profile, so it was very suitable for such a purpose. Xiaoling asked the driver to take a detour, picked up Ye's father and stepmother Aunt Lu at the entrance of an ordinary residential area, and took the car together to their hometown in the countryside. After all, she is their daughter and they are a family. No matter how many differences there are, they have to be together on such occasions. Aunt Lu put on heavy makeup and got in the car. The car was immediately filled with the smell of low-quality perfume. She looked around excitedly, sometimes touching the soft leather seat, and sometimes stepping the dense wool carpet. Isn't this car expensive? Xiaoling said calmly and rolled the car window open a crack. Aunt Liu's eyes suddenly gleamed. I just said that you are prosperous now, Xiaoling. You see that you are riding in such a good car, and it is not in vain that your father and I worked hard to raise you. I said, Xiaoling, you are rich now, but you must not be heartless. If there is any good thing, remember to think more about your father and me. And your sister Fifei. It is pity that she is still lying in the hospital bed, and her monthly nutrition fee is only I don't know how much it will cost. As a sister, you should help me more. Xiaoling sat in the passenger seat, listening to Aunt Liu's chatter. She was too lazy to talk to such a snob, so she closed her eyes to relax. The driver wore white gloves and drove quietly. Those who can work under Li Lei are well trained. Even if they see no matter how ridiculous people or hear no matter how ridiculous things they say, they can turn a deaf ear and do their jobs calmly. However, although he looked calm on the surface, he couldn't help complaining in his heart, so it turns out that Miss Ye's family is this kind of thing. I really feel bad for her. A good girl ended up with such a family. Ye's father felt a little embarrassed when he heard his wife talking incessantly, and quietly tugged at the corner of her clothes. Aunt Lu was angry. Why are you dragging me? Did I say something wrong? Now that Xiaoling is rich, she should help the family more. Then she turned to Xiaoling and said, don't you think so, Xiaoling? You should respect your parents, the time has come. Xiaoling finally couldn't help but sneer. Aunt Lu, her voice was clear, with a hint of chill, my mother is long gone, and it's not my turn to be filial to her. She was talking about this body's biological mother. If it hadn't been for Aunt Liu's mistress forcing her into the womb, can the original owner of the body be ignored and neglected by this family? Hey, you stinky girl. Why are you talking? Aunt Lu exploded in an instant. If she hadn't been sitting in the car, she would have rushed up to tear Xiaoling apart immediately. Tell you, I am your mother. I have worked so hard for you. I use so hard that you can make money now. Your wings are strong, don't think about being ungrateful. Ha ha, Xiaoling sneered. Stop arguing. Father Ye weakly tried to stop the fight. Don't worry, Aunt Lu yelled at her husband, if you weren't such a coward and couldn't even control your own daughter, how could you have raised her to be such a white-eyed wolf? Ye Xingling, let me tell you, my mother, you have to admit it, and you have to admit it even if you don't admit it. If you don't recognize me, I'll expose your lack of respect for your parents on the news. I want to see how you, a star, can still survive in the entertainment industry. Honor me and you won't be able to get better. By then your reputation will be ruined and everyone will be finished. Master Zhou, stop the car, Xiaoling said calmly. The driver, Master Zhou, looked at the road conditions and stopped the car by the road. Lu Zayadai, Xiaoling called out Aunt Liu's name clearly, you either shut up or get out of the car. You're driving me out of the car, Aunt Lu screamed even more sharply, Ye Xingling, who do you think you are? I'm your mother, why are you driving me away? I won't get out of the car, what's wrong? Xiaoling finally turned her head, looked at the excited and gaudy woman in front of her, and sneered slightly, I forgot to tell you that Master Zhou is a retired Special Forces soldier with very good skills. To throw someone like you out of the car, just use a finger. Lu Zayadai, do you want to get out of the car by yourself, or should I ask Master Zhou to throw you off? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 117. Chapter 117 Returning to the Countryside. Aunt Lu was frightened, Ye Xingling, how dare you? What don't I dare to do? Xiaoling didn't have a good temper to begin with, and her previous tolerance had already made her very impatient. Now she got angry and said to Master Zhou, throw her out of the car. Master Zhou responded, got out of the car, opened the back door, and said to Aunt Lu, please. Aunt Lu looked at his serious expression and realized she was afraid. She held onto the seat tightly, I won't get off, I'm just kidding, this place is in the wilderness, on the side of the national highway, there is no bus station or taxi. If she were there, I got off the bus here, wondering if I could find other means of transportation. Seeing that the momentum was not right, Father Ye had no choice but to persuade him, Xiaoling, your Aunt Lu said something wrong, don't take it to heart. Ask the master to drive quickly. You see, if you go late for Grandma's birthday party, it will be too late. Xiaoling said, don't want to go down? Then apologize to me. Apologize to you, why? Aunt Lu was about to have another attack. Master Zhou reached out and grabbed her arm, Madam, please get out of the car as soon as possible and don't let me use force. The situation was stronger than the situation. Aunt Lu was filled with anger, but she had to bow her head and apologize to Xiaoling, I'm sorry. Don't want to get out of the car, Xiaoling asked coldly. In no mood. Very good, Xiaoling said, then shut up. If you say one more word on the road, get out of the car immediately. No need to discuss. Xiaoling, what are you doing? Father Ye wanted to ask her why she spoke to Aunt Lu, but he swallowed his voice under Xiaoling's cold gaze. Is this girl really his daughter? When did you become so tough and scary? Aunt Lu was afraid of being thrown under the bus, so she promised Xiaoling in a low voice that she would keep quiet. Xiaoling was then satisfied and signaled Master Zhou to continue driving. After this turmoil, no one said another word along the way. The scenery on both sides of the road gradually became desolate, changing from high-rise buildings to low farmhouses and green fields, giving it a rural scene. The white BMW stopped in front of a farmhouse. Uncle 3. It's Uncle 3, Aunt 3, and Sister Xiaoling. As soon as the car door opened, a child jumped up and shouted around them. Lele, seeing the girl, Father Ye's frown was wiped away. He pinched the little girl's red face and said, "Where is your mother and grandma?" "My mother is cooking, and grandma is in the room. Many people are there, including the eldest uncle, the second aunt, and the fourth uncle." Lele counted them one by one with her fingers. The fourth uncle gave grandma a big one. "Everyone is watching the bed. Let's go and have a look too," Father Ye said. In the open space outside the gate, Xiaoling stood a little lonely. Looking around, she saw a small two-story building unique to rural areas. There was a watchdog lying on the haystack in front of the building. Next to the haystack were some old wooden doors. There is a pair of Spring Festival couplets written in red calligraphy on it, which have faded due to the sun and rain. All this is very unfamiliar to her. She used to grow up in an orphanage, and was later accepted into a wealthy family by Pei Zion. After she was reborn, she also lived in Tianyi training camp and Li Lei's apartment. This was her first time in the countryside. The smoke and wheat fields so close at hand, as well as the lively and laughing children, made her feel a bit at a loss. She didn't even know what to do with her hands and feet. Father Ye was already greeting her. "Come, Xiaoling, come with me to see your grandma." This cowardly man became happy because he returned to his hometown. He no longer remembered Xiaoling's indifference along the way and greeted her warmly. "Stand up." Just as Xiaoling was about to go in, the driver, Master Zhou, stopped her. "Miss, your things." He handed a large, beautifully packaged cardboard box to her. Xiaoling remembered that it contained a gift for Grandma Ye. She thanked Master Zhou and asked Master Zhou if he wanted to go in and sit down. Master Zhou said no and drove away, agreeing to pick her up the next day. Xiaoling followed Father Ye and Aunt Lu into the house while holding a big cardboard box. The rooms in the countryside are large, and one of them is full of people. Xiaoling immediately saw the huge canopy bed in the center of the room. It was dark red and had exquisite wood and carvings. It must have been the mahogany birthday gift from her fourth uncle. Sitting on the mahogany canopy bed is an old woman with gray hair, eyes closed, and a kind smile on her face. Grandma. Before Xiaoling could react, she had already called out. She was slightly startled. It was as if Grandma had called her countless times before, and she was extremely familiar and natural. Grandma Ye heard her voice and turned her head. "Xiaoling? Is it Xiaoling?" The old man was blind, and stretched out his hands to tremblingly. "Xiaoling is here? Hurry, come to Grandma." Everyone turned their heads and their eyes fell on Xiaoling, who was entering the door. They saw a girl with pretty features, wearing a half-sleeved shirt, with porcelain white and delicate complexion, standing quietly in the shadow by the door, so peaceful and beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes away. "It's really Xiaoling who's here," the second aunt laughed first and greeted her warmly, taking Xiaoling's hand. "Your grandma talks about you every day. She hasn't come back in these years. Don't forget us poor relatives." Xiaoling felt a little uncomfortable as she grabbed her hand and brought her to Grandma Ye. "Come on, good boy, let me take a look." Grandma Ye, with the help of others, carefully touched Xiaoling's face with her wrinkled hands, passing between her eyebrows, eyes, and lips one by one. It's Xiaoling is right," Grandma Ye said happily. "Good boy, How many years has it been since you came back to see Grandma? Grandma misses you. There are many younger members of the Ye family, but they all have a father and a mother. Only Ye Ling was bullied by her stepmother since she was a child. Grandma Ye felt sorry for her and took great care of her, so compared to other children, she was the one who missed her the most. In Xiaoling's mind, many memories belonging to the original owner of the body came to her mind, and she felt close to Grandma Ye unconsciously. She didn't know whether it was because of the influence of the original owner of the body, or because she had never had an elder care about her. Has she ever loved her so much? She sat obediently next to Grandma Ye and smiled. "Grandma, I brought you a gift." "Gift?" A good-hearted female voice rang. "Xiaoling, I heard that you are a big star now. I wonder what good things you have brought back to your grandma. Your fourth uncle also gave you a mahogany bed. The gift must be better than his. Take it out quickly and let us see it." Xiaoling raised her head and recognized the voice based on the memory of the original owner of the body. It was her fourth aunt and uncle's wife. When she said this, everyone became curious. "Yes, Xiaoling, what good thing are you going to give Grandma?" "It's not something valuable," Xiaoling said. The fourth aunt's eyes flashed with a hint of victory and a hint of disdain. "No way," your Aunt Lu boasted about Haikao, saying that the thing you are going to give will definitely be no worse than this mahogany bed. The fourth aunt covered her mouth and smiled. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 118. Chapter 118. More precious than you think. Xiaoling frowned, hearing the sarcasm in her words, and wanted to sneer back, but looked up at Grandma Ye and held back. It's true that she has a bad temper, but it depends on who she is in front of. She has always been very tolerant of people she values. She still smiled. "Grandma, I bought a set of clothes for you." Speaking, he handed the large, beautifully packaged paper box to Grandma Ye. Grandma Ye took it and touched the box. The smile at the corner of her eyes and eyebrows became more loving. "Good boy, you will come back as soon as you come back. Why do you have to spend money? It's not easy for a little girl like you to work outside. It's not easy to make money, you need to save some money, you know." Xiaoling's heart felt hot. This was the first word of concern she heard after arriving at this home. There were no false compliments and praises. Only Grandma Ye saw the hardships and difficulties behind her scenery and gave her earnest advice. This blind old woman has a clearer heart than anyone else. So Xiaoling also said softly, "Grandma, I am sensible." The fourth aunt on the side couldn't stand it and pretended to cough. "It's just a cardboard box." "What kind of clothes?" "Come open it and take a look, let us all open our eyes." Although SSD's clothes are beautifully packaged, they are never overpackaged. They look like just an ordinary, nice-looking large paper box, no different from those bought in ordinary shopping malls, and even the colors and patterns are simpler and more low-key. When the fourth aunt took a look at it, she decided that it was just an ordinary shopping mall product. It might not be a big brand in the shopping mall. She wanted to show Xiaoling in front of everyone and make her look embarrassed. "Huh, what happened to the star? It's not like a star has to bow his head in front of a rich wife like her." Xiaoling ignored her and took Grandma Ye's hand. "Grandma, come and open it." She guided Grandma Ye to open the big paper box together. The old man was old and couldn't see, so his movements were a little slow. Xiaoling but Ling was very meticulous and patient, without any urging. She left several important seals to Grandma to open, allowing the elderly to experience the fun of opening gifts. Finally, the packaging was opened, and Grandma Ye's hands touched the camel hair clothing. "It's such a soft material." Grandma Ye paused as she touched her wrinkled hands and asked, "Little girl, you must have spent a lot of money when she was young. She worked on a large ranch." "I have also been exposed to some hairdressing work. At this time, when I touched it with my hands, I knew that it was the best kind of fabric and it must not be cheap. Xiaoling said, it didn't cost much. She didn't want her grandma to worry, and things worth tens of thousands of yuan were not very valuable in her eyes. This is also because Li Lei was sensible and gave the simplest and most versatile basic items instead of more expensive ones. If it was beyond her financial ability, she would definitely return it without saying a word. Grandma Ye warned again, it's not easy for you outside. Don't spend so much money on grandma in the future. How many years can your grandma and I, an old woman, wear clothes? It's my birthday, Mom, what are you talking about? The fourth aunt's voice interrupted, her sly eyes turning around on the suit of clothes. Xiaoling said it didn't cost much. You don't have to worry too much, right, Xiaoling? Just tell grandma how much it costs. Before Xiaoling could speak, Aunt Lu on the side had already stopped. I said, her fourth aunt, Xiaoling, this child is not sensible, are you as ignorant as her? Xiaoling is a big star, this outfit can cheap? She said it didn't cost much. She was trying to comfort our mother. Do you believe this? If Xiaoling revealed the price, wouldn't it make our mother feel unhappy? He was talking like a barrage of words, just to shut up the fourth aunt. No matter what, he couldn't let the fourth aunt's family outshine his own. When the fourth uncle saw someone bullying his wife, he also joined the fight. Third sister-in-law, that's not what I said. No matter how expensive it is, can it be as expensive as this mahogany bed given by our family? Xiaoling has become a star, I don't think she can. No matter how much money you make, you may not be able to afford something valuable. Even if you tell me the price, it's cheap anyway, so I'll give Mom some relief. Aunt Lu was so angry that her eyes bulged out, but she couldn't think about it. It's all Yezingling's fault, that stinky girl. I asked her to buy an expensive birthday gift, but she just bought a set of clothes. How could this stinky girl be so stingy and ignorant, and she was so implicated that she couldn't even hold her head high in front of the fourth child and his family. Xiaoling didn't want to argue with them. The gifts had been delivered anyway, and grandma just needed to dress warmly. As for fame, fortune, and face, she had already reached the peak in her previous life. It was an unattainable height from which she could overlook everyone present. She had seen every battle, no matter how big it was. As for fighting these ordinary people for such a trivial matter, making a big fuss. At the moment, the first priority is to make Grandma Ye happy. So, she said lightly, it's really not worth a lot of money. In terms of price, it is far inferior to the mahogany bed of the fourth uncle. The fourth uncle of the Ye family is in the furniture business. The thing given to my mother is made of real materials, first-class logs and carvings. It is top grade even among mahogany beds, and it is worth a lot of money, but it is indeed far from what can be obtained for tens of thousands of dollars. Hearing what she said, the fourth uncle and the fourth aunt became happy again. Fourth aunt glanced at Aunt Lu triumphantly, did you hear that? Xiaoling is still sensible and knows how to buy cheap things. Aunt Lu was so angry that she vomited blood. She couldn't find a reason for the attack, so she could only glare at Xiaoling hatefully. Xiaoling just pretended not to see it, and slowly helped her grandma fold the camel hair clothes and pants, and warned, Grandma, put it away. Be careful when washing these clothes, and be careful when storing them, so as not to attract insects. It's rotten. Originally, she only knew how to wear clothes, so how could she know about storage and washing? It was because Li Lei was so considerate that he wrote a small card and explained all the precautions clearly on it. He said that this kind of clothing material is purely natural and has high protein content. It is more likely to attract insects than other clothing materials. Especially in rural areas, you must be careful. The fourth aunt sneered, it's not a very expensive thing. If it gets eaten away, just buy it again. The fourth aunt provoked her again and again, and Xiaoling finally couldn't hold back her anger. She was also drunk. She kept giving in for Grandma Ye's sake, but others thought she was a soft persimmon to be bullied. Just when she was hesitating whether to teach her fourth aunt a lesson, a clean male voice interrupted, his fourth aunt, "You are wrong. In terms of money alone, this set of clothes is indeed not as good as the mahogany bed your family gave you. It's valuable, but you can buy a mahogany bed, but you may not be able to buy the set of clothes. This set of clothes is much more expensive than you think, and it's something you can't buy even if you have money." As soon as these words came out, everyone looked over. The person speaking was a young man, wearing a white shirt, smiling elegantly, and looking polite. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Sci-fi. Chapter 119. Chapter 119 The Pursuer. Xiaoling does not have this person in her memory. She doesn't know who he is. He doesn't seem to be from the Ye family. Perhaps sensing her doubtful look, the man smiled friendly at her. "Hello, I am Nan Sheng, your fourth uncle's friend." Xiaoling said, "Hello," but she was confused in her heart. Her fourth uncle was in his 40s or 50s, and this Nan Sheng looked like he was only in his 20s. How did these two people become friends? Fourth uncle had already solved her doubts, half joking and half reminding, "Mr. Nan is a good friend of mine in business, Xiaoling, you have to be polite. Mr. Nan's family is in the textile business and produces many mattresses. Pillows, curtains, etc., are all very popular with consumers, and they match the furniture business run by the fourth uncle, so the relationship between the two is very close. However, Mr. Nan is from the third generation of wealth, and his family background is much better than that of the fourth uncle, who is self-made. Therefore, the fourth uncle is polite when he sees him, saying that he is a friend, but he vaguely regards Mr. Nan as the main one and does not dare to offend him. This time, my fourth uncle accidentally told Nan Sheng about the birthday banquet for the elderly in the family. Nan Sheng had never seen a birthday banquet in the countryside, so he became curious and came to join in the fun. Firstly, it was not convenient for the fourth uncle to refuse, and secondly, he also wanted to take this opportunity to get closer to Nan Sheng Duo, so he took him to the countryside with him. Xiaoling doesn't care about that much. What kind of Mr. Nan? Never heard of that. From City S, she asked. City S was the city where she was. Yes, Mr. Nan smiled a little reservedly, S. Jinnan's family. Xiaoling nodded politely. She has stayed in S city for 2 lifetimes. Since following Pei Zian more than 10 years ago, she has been in contact with the most wealthy and powerful group of so-called social elites and upper-class people in the city, but she has never heard of the Nan family. It seems that even if Mr. Nan's family has a little money, it is far from the real level, otherwise she would not have even heard of it. Mr. Nan felt a little unhappy when he saw her indifferent expression, but then he thought about it. It was normal for a young star who had just risen recently to not have heard of his Nan family name. How could a young star like this from a grassroots background be able to? How much knowledge do you have? I feel relieved. Mr. Nan, what do you mean by saying that you can't buy the set of clothes Xiaoling gave you even if you have money? Someone asked curiously. If I'm not mistaken, this set of clothes is from SSD. Mr. Nan's sharp eyes had already caught a glimpse of the SSD logo on the inconspicuous corner of the big paper box. Suddenly, he felt a little confused. Yasinling was so ignorant. How can a little star buy SSD clothes? However, he continued, this store is a custom-made store with a membership system. It is not easy to get a membership card there. You have to go through identity verification, and it doesn't work just by having money. Isn't it enough just to have money? Isn't it possible for someone like my fourth uncle? The little girl from the second uncle's family asked innocently. The fourth uncle looked at Mr. Nan eagerly, waiting for his answer. What SSD? Never heard of it. Okay. Mr. Nan glanced at his fourth uncle. Uncle, yeah, don't look at me. You can't get this set of clothes with money. A businessman like you who has just made a fortune recently can't get the membership of that store of. The fourth uncle was a little surprised. When he looked at Xiaoling, his eyes were different. Could this little girl get something that he couldn't get? He is doing business outside and has more knowledge than ordinary people. He knows that many things cannot be bought even with money. It is not a matter of money, but a symbol of status. When did this little girl become so prestigious? A people? It seems that a star is a star. Although he is not as wealthy as him, his status is still different. Not only the fourth uncle, but also other people looked at Xiaoling with more admiration in their eyes. Sister Xiaoling is so amazing, the little girl from the second uncle's family said. I will be a big star when I grow up in the future. Xiaoling smiled and pinched the little girl's face. Okay, I will protect you when the time comes. The little girl became happy and crawled onto the bed on her hands and knees. She hugged Xiaoling and kissed her hard. It's settled, Sister Xiaoling, pull the hook. She wrapped her arms around Xiaoling and pulled the hook, then turned around and blinked. Ask Mr. Nan, Uncle Nan, can you buy things from Sister Xiaoling's store? Nan Sheng was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect the little girl to ask such a question, and his expression suddenly became awkward. That's right, the threshold for SSD is too high, and even Nanjia is not qualified to apply for membership. The reason why he knew about this store was because he was obsessed with squeezing into the real upper-class society in City S. He had spent a lot of time researching it, and because his family was in the textile business, he knew everything about it. He once went to apply for a membership card, but was turned away. Even gifts and bribes were useless. He rolled his eyes, thinking about how to answer the little girl's question. On the side, the fourth aunt had already spoken. She scolded the little girl, why are you talking? Who is Uncle Nan? How come Uncle Nan can't buy things that even Sister Xiaoling can buy? Right? Mr. Nan, as she spoke, she smiled flatteringly at Nan Sheng. Nan Sheng was literally being roasted on the fire, no matter how he nodded or shook his head. He smiled dryly and changed the topic. Where is Aunt? Why haven't you come yet? Dinner is almost ready. Yes, I'm going to hurry up, my eldest aunt, it's time to eat. Everyone did not doubt that he was there, and followed Nan Sheng's topic to chat about other things. Nan Sheng breathed a sigh of relief, but the doubts still didn't go away. Even a third-generation rich family like them couldn't get a membership card. This little girl was just a starlet with a humble background. How could she do it? Arrive. It seems that she has some connections. What kind of connections could it be? His eyes fell on Xiaoling calmly. Well, she was a very clean girl. She was not very beautiful, but she sat there quietly and had a cold and mysterious temperament. Such a girl can attract the attention of many men. I heard that the entertainment industry is very chaotic. Starlets will find some sponsors and backers for themselves. Maybe this is how she can become a member of SSD, or simply her financial sponsors gave her this outfit. It has to be said that a small part of Nan Sheng's guesses are close to the truth. Xiaoling was unaware of his probing gaze, and was chatting with Grandma. Yeah, how can I have a suitable person? Grandma, how old am I? Suitors. There are quite a few suitors, haha, Grandma, I don't will consider getting married. Yes, that must be the case, this girl must be unclean. Nan Sheng's mind became active. The Nan family had made some money over the years, but it was far from being able to join the real upper class. It was difficult to enter that circle. Just having money was not enough. I have been trying hard, but have never succeeded. The little star named Yesing Ling in front of him seems to know the top wealthy families. Maybe she can help him and the Nan family to a higher level. Looking at the girl who was chatting and laughing, Nan Sheng's eyes deepened. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 120. Chapter 120 Haystack Fireworks. The birthday banquet was quickly arranged, with dozens of farm dishes, all full of color, flavor, which made people want to eat. Xiaoling was the most beloved by Grandma Ye. She was pulled by Grandma Ye and sat beside her. Grandma Ye kept telling her to eat more, and her aunt who was not far away also kept giving her food. Xiaoling was a little flattered. She followed Pei Xian in her previous life. Although she was pampered by him, she had never experienced the care of her elders. Pei's family members were all aloof and looked down upon her as an orphan. Although Pei Xian did not dare to show his face to her because of his face, he was always reserved and cold in his speech and behavior. At one time, Xiaoling thought that she didn't care at all. As long as Pei Xian was loved by him, no matter how many grievances he suffered, it was worth it. It was only then, when she was greeted by two elders, that she realized how wrong she was. Such a family is a real family. She has never experienced the feeling of home. A meal that is full of emotions. After the birthday banquet, a group of people came outside the gate to set off fireworks. Brilliant fireworks soared into the sky, lighting up the entire night sky. The children clapped their hands and cheered, and the faces of the adults were also full of joy. Xiaoling sat on a tall haystack, hugging her knees with her hands, slightly raising her head and watching quietly. Her expression was peaceful, with a hint of joy in her tranquility. The light from the fireworks set off her porcelain white cheeks, making people unable to take their eyes away. People are more moving than fireworks. Unconsciously, this sentence appeared in Nan Sheng's mind. He looked at Xiaoling almost obsessively. It was strange. This girl obviously did not have a beautiful appearance, but she had a mysterious charm that made people's hearts flutter. The fourth uncle on the side quickly noticed something strange about him. "Mr. Nan," he asked with a smile, "what are you looking at?" Nan Sheng turned around and saw that it was her fourth uncle. She didn't hide it. "Does your little girl have a boyfriend?" he asked so bluntly that his fourth uncle was slightly startled. Then he realized what Nan Sheng meant and was overjoyed. Mr. Nan asked this, "Are you interested in Ling Yetu?" Mr. Nan is a big tree. If he can bring them together, the two families will be more closely connected, which will be of great benefit to his business. So the fourth uncle said with a smile, "Where did you get your boyfriend?" "Mr. Nan, you and your wife have been divorced for half a year, right? It's not easy for one person to raise a son. It's time to find a good wife. Where's our little Ling? As you can see, she has a good rapport with children, Ying and the other children like to get close to her, and she is a celebrity, which matches your status very well." One word said something deep in Nan Sheng's heart. Getting a wife? Yes, he planned to marry her, and he wanted to smooth out the relationship through her. Only by marrying her, or giving her hope of marrying into the Nan family, would she help him wholeheartedly. When it comes to marriage, Nan Sheng has always felt that marriage is just a bargaining chip. Although he is only in his 20s, he has been divorced twice. Both times he married for profit, and then kicked the other person away after taking advantage of him. This kind of when it comes to doing things, he has no mental barriers at all. Mr. Nan looked carefully at the haystack. Against the backdrop of the fireworks in the sky, her slender figure looked a little lonely. How can you not feel lonely? He knew very well that a little star like her was just a play in the hands of those high-ranking and powerful people. It was impossible to get a real status and never dream of becoming a real wife in her lifetime. But, which woman doesn't long for a family? With his family background like Mr. Nan, he was willing to marry her, which was enough to make her burst into tears. Mr. Nan smiled proudly, thanked his fourth uncle, and climbed up the haystack on both hands and feet. Xiaoling was fascinated by the fireworks when suddenly, someone appeared beside her, which startled her. She stared at the gentle man with wide eyes. The man was too close to her, so she moved aside unaccustomedly. Xiaoling is watching the fireworks too. Nan Gongzi struck up a conversation with Xiaoling in what he thought was the most handsome pose. To be fair, this Mr. Nan is really not bad looking, and he also has a certain level of class and grace in his dress and conversation. He is definitely the type to make women scream when he is in a crowd. But, who is Xiaoling? I followed Pei Xian in my previous life, and spent my life with Li Lei day and night. Which of those two men is not the best of them all? In terms of appearance, family background, ability, and even the ability to coax women, how can he not be several blocks behind Mr. Nan? Mr. Nan wants to act cool in front of Xiaoling, which is destined to be a tragedy. Xiaoling felt that the person in front of her was a bit baffled. They were not familiar with each other and the haystack was small. Why did he just approach her and strike up a conversation? Xiaoling and Xiaoling's screams are so affectionate. Did he think this was somewhere, a social reception in City S? She said politely and distantly, yes. She turned her head and ignored him. Mr. Nan was a little embarrassed, and secretly hated this woman for not understanding her charm, so she got closer. Your fourth uncle and I picked out these fireworks together. They were shipped directly from the best fireworks factory nearby. The factory boss saw that I gave you a big discount. It's definitely a good product that's cheap and has guaranteed quality. He showed off his ability to her. Xiaoling nodded again and said politely, thank you for buying fireworks, Mr. Nan. It's getting late and I'm a little sleepy. I'll go back to my room to sleep first. You can do whatever you want with that. She jumped down from the haystack lightly and left. What a joke. She didn't want to stay there and listen to Mr. Nan's chatter, and he was too close. She had to endure it again and again to avoid slapping him. That person smelled really bad, and she didn't know what brand of perfume he was wearing. Anyway, he must be someone she had nothing to deal with. Xiaoling returned to the room as if running away, and then she breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Nan was left stunned, blowing the cold wind alone on the haystack. Just kidding, how could a woman be so disrespectful to him? Mr. Nan couldn't figure out what was wrong. Yes, it must be that this little girl had no vision. It must be. Does she understand what it means that the eldest son of the Nan family is willing to condescend to pursue her? She doesn't even want a chance to rise to the top. No wonder she's still just a little star. She turns out to be so indifferent to looks. Mr. Nan scolded Xiaoling in his heart for a while and jumped down from the haystack in frustration. The fourth uncle came up to him and smiled apologetically, Mr. Nan, don't mind. This stinky girl Xiaoling has this temper. She has been ignorant and shy since she was a child. She must feel that she is not good enough for you. She will not be able to do it for a while. Realize what happened. The fourth uncle watched the whole process and witnessed how Nan Sheng was ignored. He was afraid that Nan Sheng would give up like this, so he had no choice but to comfort Nan Sheng. Cheer. But he was cursing secretly in his heart, yes, Yingling, you girl, if you hadn't seen that you were of some use, if you dare to offend my big business partner, I would have beaten your muscles and skinned you. End of this chapter.